So my point is, America might look divided, our world might look divided, but if we believe that God's will bring us all back together, then it is going to be the biggest love fest you've ever seen. The biggest love fest. All the terrible things we did to each other becomes flip side, is the greatest reunion ever. And I promise you, we'll never be as divided as we are now, ever again. And this is the heart of Korea. This is the plan for a heavenly unified Korea. I mean, this war, the Korean War, is one of the most horrific wars, because it's with a people that they're really brothers and sisters. Even you'll find that the Korean people are the most homogeneous country. These people they're literally family. And I remember I saw a picture, as I can't erase it from my mind. And forgive me if this is a little bit PG-13, but it was a picture of a South Korean soldier holding the decapitated head of a North Korean soldier. And he had this big smile on his face. It is like the most unthinkable situation that happened on this country. And it wasn't caused by themselves. It was caused by outside influences. So how horrific and how responsible we should feel for this conflict. So I want to read some words from our true parents about how we resolve this conflict and what we can do about it. How does that sound? And as it turns out, it's stuff that we're already doing. So we'll just keep doing more of it. Oh, let me first start with Ephesians. And again, I want to remind people, what is peace? And you will hear about this in the Peace Starts With Me seminar. But the conclusion is that it's harmony, that unity, that coming back together under God's vision, that is peace. And I love how the Bible explains this well. In Ephesians 2:14, for he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility. So you couldn't be more clear. Peace is when we become one. Even Chonoguk. What is the definition of Chonoguk? Like, what is the literal translation of Chonoguk? To become one. That is the most fundamental blueprint of peace. The definition of peace is we're to become one under God's will. Not Satan's or your own, but God's. Okay, that is the definition of peace. And again, in Hebrews 12:14, make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. So it's not just becoming one based on how smart you are and making some strategic, you can appeal to the different groups of people and have a nice event. No, it has to be centered on the higher authority, on God's dream, God's divine principle. From Mother Moon, here she emphasizes this point that unity can only come with God's intervention. The unification of North and South Korea has not been left in the hands of politicians alone. It has to become a matter in which God can intervene. Reverend Moon is working hard day and night to have his worldwide foundation help achieve the unification of North and South Korea in accordance with the will of God and construct the ideal world of peace, free from immorality and corruption. Immortality. You like that? Who likes this? Mother just puts it well. And she talks about Reverend Moon. Do you think he stopped working hard after he passed in spirit world? No way. I think this word is more true today than even then. I think Father's working that much harder from heaven and moving all the pieces together. And it's a very hopeful time. And you'll start to see that more. But it has to come from God. I would go so far to say that Korea, that God is preventing Korea from uniting until the people of Korea can accept their Savior. Right, Reverend Edner? I heard you. Yeah. Yeah. So we think, oh, if we talk to the right politicians and we do this and that, then we can unite the Korean Peninsula. I'll make some governance system that accommodates the two ideologies. That ain't going to do anything. If that's all it took, we would have had peace by now. I believe God has a stint preventing Korea from uniting until the true owner of Korea will be recognized and be lifted up. And then all that wonderful, smart people will come in and figure things out after that. But it has to start in the right place. It has to be started on God's will. The people are too spiritual to just let some smart people figure things out. It has to be spiritual. So I know this service is getting maybe a little bit longer, but I do have some story time. There's a great book called As a Peace-Loving Global Citizen. Anyone heard of it? And there's some great content in here. So I'm going to read a short chapter, half of it. And it describes True Father's meeting with Kim Il-sung. And there's some real gems in here I'd like to highlight. So I think it's best for me just to read it. Today, many people talk about peaceful unification. I, however, spoke about this at a time when people did not dare even use the phrase peaceful reunification. I got to say, True Father definitely came up with some words that didn't get trendy until later. Well, even interracial marriage. That was not a popular thing when we were doing it, right? I mean, was it popular for any of you? No. Also, tribes. This was a term that Father's been using a lot. And now it's a typical marketing term. People use, who's your tribe? Where find your tribe? So yet again, reunification, that was not popular before. I, however, spoke about at this time when people did not dare even use the phrase peaceful reunification for fear of being charged with violating the anti-communist law and the national security law. Today, when people ask me what must be done to bring unification, I tell them what I have always said on this matter. If South Koreans love North Korea more than they love the South, and North Koreans love South Korea more than they love the North, we could unify the peninsula today. I was able to risk my life to go to North Korea in 1991 and meet President Kim because I had a foundation of love within me. I made arrangements then with him regarding meetings of separated families, North-South economic cooperation, development of Mount Kumgang, denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, and working toward a North-South Summit conference. No one thought an anti-communist could go to a communist country and open the floodgate of unification, but I surprised the world. I like to say we specialize in making miracles. That's what we do. Before my meeting with President Kim, I delivered a 2-hour address titled Blood is Thicker Than Water at the Mansudae Assembly Hall, seat of the Supreme People's Assembly, North Korea's legislature. I spoke that day to the leadership of North Korea about a way to unify North and South through love. I stood before the leadership of North Korea who were armed with Kim Il-sung's philosophy and told them exactly what I believed. Who knows kind of how this goes? Yeah, this man is either got big balls or just no brains. North and South must be unified, I said, but guns and swords will not make us one. North-South unification will not happen with military force. Even the Korean War failed in this respect, and it is foolish for anyone to think they can make another attempt through military force. Neither will unification happen with the Juche ideology that you espouse. What will do it then? The world does not operate only by the power of human beings. Because God exists, nothing can be done by human effort alone. Even in situations of evil, such as war, God carries out his providence. That is why North and South cannot be unified through the Juche ideology that puts man at the center. Bringing about a unified homeland can be done only with Godism, I continued. God is protecting us, and our time of unification is coming. Unification is the destiny. It is the task that must be accomplished in our era. If we cannot accomplish the sacred task of unifying the homeland in our time, we will not be able to hold our heads high in the presence of our ancestors or descendants for the rest of eternity. You see that? See, Father knew. God's will is unification. But not without God. What is Godism? It is the practice of God's perfect love. Neither the right wing nor the left wing can unify North and South. It will be possible only when there is a head-wing thought that is able to harmonize these two. To travel the path of love, you must apologize before the world for your invasion of the South. He gets really hard here. This is tough stuff, he says. I understand that North Korea has planted 20,000 resident espionage agents in the South. This is crazy. You are not going to believe what he told them to do. Send an order immediately to all of them, instructing them to turn themselves in to the South Korean authorities. Even I'm like, wow, really? If you do that, I will give them, he said, I will give them an education that will rectify their ideology, basically fix your broken ideology. Rectify their ideology and turn them into patriots who will contribute to the peaceful unification of North and South. I don't know why they didn't just shoot him right there in North Korea. I mean, they're like, are you kidding me? If they don't do something, they're in trouble, right? I pounded on the table in front of me as I spoke. The expressions of Mr. Yoon Ki-bok and Vice Premier Kim Dal-hyun grew tense. No kidding. I was aware of what dangers I might be exposed to for making such statements, but I needed to say what I had come to say. I was not simply trying to shock the audience. It may come across that way. I knew that my speech would be reported immediately, word for word, to President Kim and his son, Chairman Kim Jong-il. So I wanted to state my purpose clearly. When I finished, some of the North Koreans present even protested, demanding to know how I could dare to speak in such a manner. I looked at my entourage and saw that their faces were white. I know, well, we know some of them, right, who they were. No, and Mother was there too, right? I don't know how pale she was. She probably, she knew what was up. I looked at my entourage and saw that their faces were white. Our members who were with me told me the speech had a very strong tone, and the atmosphere of the audience was not good. I was adamant, however. Why did I come here, I asked them. I didn't come to see the land of North Korea. If I were to leave here without saying what needed to be said, here it comes, heaven would punish me. I've had these experiences before where I fear God more than the so-called powerful authorities that, in front of me. I fear God more. Even if today's speech is used by them as an excuse to deny me a meeting with President Kim and to expel us from the country, I still needed to say what I came to say. On July 8, 1994, President Kim suddenly died. His death came when North and South relations were at an all-time low. Patriot missiles had been deployed on South Korean soil, and hawks in the United States advocated the destruction of nuclear facilities in Yongbyon. It appeared that war might break out at any time. North Korea announced it would not receive any mourners from outside the country. But I felt it was important we send someone. Again, unification, attendance, at the risk of Dr. Bo Hee-pak's life in this case. I wanted to fulfill my obligation as I had formed a brotherly relationship with President Kim. I called Bo Hee-pak. Go immediately to North Korea as my representative to mourn President Kim's death, I said. No one can get into North Korea right now, he said. I know it's difficult, but somehow you have to go. I don't care if you have to swim across the Yalu River. Get in there and convey my condolences. Let's give a hand to Dr. Boy Park. I mean, this guy. He had to deliver more than one very, inconvenient, unpopular points of view. Boy Park first traveled to Beijing and risked his life to communicate with North Korea. Then Chairman Kim Jong-il gave the instruction, an exception will be made for a morning representative from Chairman Moon. Escort him to Pyongyang. Let's give a hand to Kim Jong-un. This is Kim Jong-il, right? Kim Jong-il. After condolences had been expressed, Chairman Kim Jong-il met with Boy Park and politely greeted him, saying, "My father always said that Chairman Moon was working hard for the unification of our homeland. I'm glad you came." There's no one that they trusted more. In fact, North Korea is not the problem, folks. North Korea, they're ready to welcome us in, to do a blessing, do whatever we want to do there. It's the South. No judgment. Just, I know we have to go through the proper channels, but North Korea is ready. In 1994, the Korean Peninsula was in such a crisis that it could have exploded at any time. In that moment, we were able to resolve the nuclear crisis on the Korean Peninsula because of the relationship I had formed with President Kim Il-sung. Sending a representative to express my condolences was not a simple matter of mourning. See, of course, the media won't cover this. They won't give true parents credit. Neither will the South. But we know what happened. In fact, for many times after this, we were the go-to to resolve issues. I described my meeting with President Kim in considerable detail to illustrate my point about the importance of faith and loyalty between two people. I met him for the sake of the peaceful unification of our homeland. I was able to convey my concerns for the destiny of our people with faith and loyalty. As a result, after his death, his son, Chairman Kim Jong-il, accepted our morning representative. There is no wall that cannot be scaled, and no dream that cannot be realized when we share our love with a sincere heart. If I want to go to battle, to a front line somewhere, I'm looking at sincerity. I'm looking at real love for Jesus, real love for God. That's the most powerful weapon. When I went to North Korea, I thought of it as my homeland and the home of my brother. I didn't go there with a desire to get something from them. I went with the purpose to share with them my heart of love. The power of love touched not only President Kim Il-sung, but also his son, Chairman Kim Jong-il. Since then, continuing to this day, we have maintained a special relationship with North Korea. Each time North-South relations became difficult, this is a fact, we have played a role in opening the gateway. It is all based on the fact that I met with President Kim Il-sung, conveyed to him my sincere heart, and built a relationship of trust with him. That is the importance of trust. Here's a list of some of the things we've built over there. Following my meeting with President Kim, we now operate the Pyeonghwa Motors plant, the Potanggang Hotel, and the World Peace Center in North Korea. Well, North Korea, yeah, somewhere in North Korea. There are billboards for Pyeonghwa Motors around Pyongyang. When the South Korean president visited North Korea, North Korean officials took him to the Pyeonghwa Motors plant. South Korean business leaders who accompanied the president stayed at the Potanggang Hotel. You can't do that. You can't bring South Koreans into North Korea. You know that? But we can. We do it. Non-North Korean members of our church who work in North Korea, gather at the World Peace Center each Sunday for worship service. They have worship services in North Korea. Okay. All of these projects are efforts for the sake of peaceful exchanges and unification of North and South. They're not being done to make a profit. They are efforts to contribute to the unification of North and South as an expression of love for the Korean people. Let's give true parents a big, big hand for this. Okay, bedtime story's over. Can I wake up now? So this is like Jesus showed us what true love was. He broke through the ceiling of what is true love. And now we have true parents to show us this is true love. Not just forgiving your enemy, but you love your enemy. You do business with your enemy, and you match your children to your enemy. I love Dr. Young's talk about this, right? He talked about his wife, she's Japanese, he's Korean, and he goes further and further, like, I'm making love with the enemy. It's like, this is the true parents' legacy that we can never forget. And we inherit this. I want to highlight this point here in terms of how we can support reunification. Basically doing our responsibility. He said, which I read just now, I believe that when a person sweats, he or she should sweat every last drop that he or she has in him or her. He should sweat even the last little bit that is in his heart. I think this is our responsibility. Do we know exactly what we're supposed to do? No. But if you do anything at all, check, we can measure your sweat. And that is our measure of success. Because that sweat moves heaven. And this one here, I wanted to highlight, this is being a United States citizen. I feel responsible for this aspect too. Patriot missiles have been deployed in South Korean soil, and the war hawks in the United States advocated the destruction of nuclear facilities. So in other words, there are people who, they don't like peace. They don't like to make negotiations and love unconditionally. They just blow the place up. Forget denuclearization, just blow up the nukes. Who cares about all this waste of time? And that will never work. That will just breed more hatred, and it'll just create more issues. We've seen that happen time and time again. War never helps, unless it's God's war. But true parents never said any war today should happen. And again, God's dream is unification. That's why we continue to attend. Even when there's no way that we can see, unification has to be the goal. I'm going to put some images up here. I don't know how you feel about these images, but I think it points to a very hopeful future with our relationship with Korea and a peace treaty centered on our true mother, only begotten daughter, and the mother of Korea. And that is the fact that we've met with Kim Jong-un. Our president of the United States, look at these flags back here. You have the American flag and the North Korean flag. So we're honoring, we're respecting the Korean culture, okay? And I took all these pictures from CNN, by the way, so in case you're wondering how, this is not biased. I'm playing both sides here, okay? So shaking hands. And look at the affection in Kim Jong-un's eyes. Look at him. He's like yeah, he's like a child, And I don't know, maybe true father's working somewhere in all of this, don't you think? Father has to be somewhere in this picture. You can maybe see his spirit right there. He's just like, he's floating around somewhere in there. And they're walking together here, and they put on a whole Singapore summit just to have more dialogue, more respect, more dialogue. And then Trump's got his look, right? And you've got something signed here. As we know, it didn't really go very far, unfortunately. But to me, and these are people that we're working closely with. And I don't give them as much credit as true parents. We educated them. We helped them. And they were willing to respond. So again, I want to give another big hand to true parents for guiding our U.S. representatives to put more emphasis on the Korean Peninsula. And, President Trump's speech is on our website that he gave at the Rally of Hope in Think Tank 2022. And there is some politics in there, so forgive me there, but he is pretty politicized. But I think his presence was very important as a sitting president. So